Every kid should be taught how to handle a firearm, especially semi-automatic pistols, AR rifles, and shotguns. Every kid. Here is why. If you haven't watched the Netflix documentary Parkland, I recommend you do. It's about the Valentine's Day 2018 school shooting at Marjorie Stone Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, a suburb outside of Fort Lauderdale. It was described as a paradise, safe, friendly, and upscale. A bubble.
You can't raise kids in a bubble, man.
That day, the bubble burst as a disgruntled, mentally ill former student who was expelled from the school months earlier walked into one of the buildings on campus and left about 6.5 minutes later, having murdered 17 and injuring 17 students and faculty members. The resource officer on site, a Broward County Sheriff's deputy whose sole purpose was to engage threats and protect the students, left the scene like a coward, and law enforcement showed up at the school 5 minutes after the shooter had already left.
What did you expect?
Teachers closed their non-bulletproof doors and cowered in corners and behind furniture, hoping that remaining silent and out of sight would save them. Faculty members that rushed to help empty-handed were gunned down and executed while lying wounded on the cold hallway floor. One particular thing stood out to me as I was watching the survivors being interviewed. One of the boys was in a staircase on his way down when he noticed a large duffel bag at the foot of the staircase on the ground floor. The shooter was on the 3rd floor at that moment. He didn't bother to look inside the bag for additional guns, and who knows if he even knew how to use a gun had he found one.
Oh, sister, I highly doubt it.
That has to change if we are to have any chance to reduce, let alone eliminate, such incidents from happening at schools and colleges. The notion that restricting guns will stop guns from being used is as dumb as the people who propose it. The shooters who purchase guns legally do so because they can. They would buy them illegally anyway if they had to. These shooters may be mentally ill, but they are also obsessed with the mission. They will not stop until they are stopped.
Amen to that, brother.
I understand that parents, especially those who have the means to, want to live in and send their kids to the best communities and schools. In bubbles. They don't want their kids to think, talk, or handle firearms. They don't want gates, security, checkpoints, metal detectors, armed faculty, fences, and barbed wire. It may be too traumatic for the kids, too prison-like. Well, in my opinion, it's better than having none of these just to keep up aesthetics and losing my kid to a lunatic who can just waltz in and ruin lives.
Well, I certainly can't argue with that.
Just let the police handle it, they say. Please show me one mass shooting in a school or elsewhere where the police arrived in time to prevent anything.
Okay, good luck with that.
If they did, these wouldn't be mass shootings, would they? Yet, when law enforcement doesn't arrive in time and take too long to eliminate the threat, they rush to blame them and sue them for dereliction of duty. How hypocritical and pathetic. Law enforcement will never be able to provide an effective first line of defense. Municipal budgets are not big enough for that. And even if they were, it is unlikely that recruitment will be robust enough to fill the big gap, unless we can produce more RoboCops. It's time to provide every student and faculty member who is willing and able the opportunity to learn and get trained to use, at the very least, the most popular firearms used by mass shooters: semi-automatic pistols, AR platform rifles, and shotguns.
And how do you propose we do that, Einstein?
Every faculty member at a kindergarten through college ought to be armed, trained, and ready. Middle and high school students ought to learn firearm safety and responsibility and how to become proficient in their use. High schools and colleges ought to have designated senior students who pass rigorous qualifications with special privileges and training to carry guns or have quick access to firearms inside classrooms and dormitories. A shooter should never be able to walk onto a campus, let alone a building on it, and not be immediately outnumbered and confronted by trained faculty members, designated armed students, and resource officers, overwhelmingly so that he or she doesn't last more than a few seconds before being put down. Guns are never, I repeat, never going away. Nor should they. They are a part of our culture and our constitutional right, but they are also, in the right hands, the very solution to the gun violence problem in our schools. If you enjoy this video, please smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and watch the next video right here. Train hard, often, and safely, and I'll see you at the range.